dude, I'm the head coach. I'm on your side too.
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson will talk smack to anybody. It does not matter.
He
It's
literally said
the
that.
best.
He's great.
It's the best.
It's unreal, dude. Like, I mean, who was the receiver on the Bears? Oh man, I don't even remember his name
Are you talking
anymore.
about Tariq Cohen, the running back?
No, it wasn't Tariq. Who was it?
You talk about Buddy? He smacked him.
Yeah. He had him. He kept talking. He like threw his mouth guard away. Unreal.
No, the dude, bro, when he hit him, did you see? Like, he looked at the ref. He was like, he pointed. He's like, "What are you doing?"
That was the funniest thing. He just stood there like he ate that punch, and like later he was just like, "What's happening here?"
And then he hit him again. Like, oh, you didn't feel that one? Watch this.
He's still just like, are we gonna call this?
Like in an anime where like the side character goes up and punches the main bad guy, and it just doesn't phase him.
Right. They like walk away, and their arm is like.
You got Krillin over here punching Cell in the face. Cell like
As Yamcha getting blown up by a Cyberman.
Oh man. All right. Well, welcome everybody. It's a Philly Blitz Pod live stream today. We got an Eagles Giants preview. I'm Parth. We got Pierre and Quell, as well as an extremely special guest. We got JP Acosta on today. How you guys all doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good, man. Excited for this weekend, man.
Wubba lubba dub dub. It is I, the one and only Marquel Fripp Owens, and I am feeling awesome. I'm excited to have our guest on. It honestly gives me a chance to say this on a live stream because I've been saying it all week on Twitter. I said it all off season. Shout out my boy Aaron. I don't know if y'all know my man Aaron from Jags Nation, but he live out there. Hey, it was always the Jags. It was always Doug Peterson, baby. Let's go. You love to see it. You love to see it.
I'm doing great. This is awesome. I mean, it feels like the Jaguars and the Eagles, like, even though like they played earlier in the season.
I think he lagged out.
Right as we went live, too.
Yeah, he was perfectly fine the entire time.
I know, but hey, you know what?
Oh, there we go.
We can agree.
Back.
Vanilla ice cream for everyone.
Yes, of course. Vanilla ice cream for everybody.
So we lost you there for a second. What were you saying? You were talking about the Eagles and the Jags could possibly meet again.
Shoot, I hope so.
You're getting that?
All
right.
I hope so. I'm not making any predictions about the Chiefs Jaguars game, but I will say I'm never going to count this Jaguars team out. I've learned my lesson. I've been down this road. It was 27-0. I was in that stadium, fell to my knees in the Bud Light fan zone on the muff punt. I was just sitting there. I was sad. Everybody was sad, but nobody left. And then the comeback started, and I'm just like, look, man, I'm here for the ride. We've already had one of the greatest comebacks in playoff history. Anything else from here on out is house money. We're playing with house money for the rest of the season.
Absolutely, and that's the best feeling, and especially with a coach like Doug. Doug takes house money and he runs. Like he's the type of dude who thrives off of moments like this, and like. So we were talking about it earlier, but I got family that are Jags fans, and like they were a little bit disappointed when JP didn't end up, or not JP, Byron didn't end up coming to Jacksonville. But I told them, I was like, look, man, Doug is gonna come and change things. Like you're gonna by the end of the season, you're gonna be willing to take a bullet for Doug. Like any Eagles fan still would, and I'm sure any Jags fan would at this point. Like he just has this way of connecting, and it's really just amazing.
Yeah, I need the statue of Doug Peterson built immediately. I want that outside of TIA Bank Field this instant. I'll go build it. Honestly, like let's make this thing now. I mean, going from the worst team in the league to now you're in the divisional round of the playoffs and with one of the youngest teams in the league, that's really coaching. It's so important to have an adult in the room.
Oh Absolutely. Man. Well, shout out to my guy Rico. I see him tapped into the chat. It makes it sad because he's actually a Chargers fan, and it makes me ask JP to walk me through this whole thing because you see the video of the fan on Twitter who you see your team up 27-0, fall asleep, and you wake up at the end of the game and you watch your team losing, like you. Oh man, I can't imagine. I just could not imagine that feeling, man. Take me through it, JP. What is it like watching that in real time as a Jags fan?
So, as I've said before, I was at this game. This was the first game I've ever been to, like in person for a Jags game. And I had stated before this entire season, I felt like I was a hex on this Jaguars team because every time I watched, they would lose. The last game I watched, like on TV, was when they got smoked by Detroit. So I was like, I'm not going to watch. But they had a home playoff game. This is going to be, I don't get these chances very often. I'm going to go to this game. So I went to the game. I'm sitting there and I could tell, like after the first interception, my phone started blowing up with JP, get out your seat. JP, move. JP, get away. JP, get move now. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I get it. I get up and leave. I'm sitting in the concourse. I'm sitting in the Bud Light party zone, and just the worst stuff happens. Like it's not just normal interceptions. These are wacky interceptions. They're tip drills. One was a really good design by Brandon Staley. One was like this should have been pass interference. We had a muff punt that went off a player's head, and it just felt like this game was going to be a same old Jags thing. But then the second half came around. They scored going into halftime, and I'm like, okay, 27-7, that's not bad. They scored an open half, the second half, and we're like, okay, we're going to win this game. Like I think there was a general belief in that stadium of Jags fans. Once the Jaguars scored and made it 27-14, that game was over. And you could tell, like, I think the Chargers low key kind of quit. Like after the missed field goal by Badgley that kept it at 30-20, the Chargers quit. And you could tell, like I said it on Twitter, but nobody breaks the souls of opposing teams like the Jaguars. Joey Bosa lost his mind, like just lost every single part of his mind after the Christian Kirk touchdown. And we normally don't see that from Joey Bosa. Like it's something about the Jaguars beating your team that just makes you like lose your mind.
Who was it?
There was a
Wasn't it the
Titans player.
Colts?
The first time they beat the Titans, dude
That's
cried
who it
in the
was.
post game.
That's who
He
it was.
was crying real tears because the Jaguars smoked them. And it wasn't even like super bad. The Jaguars won like 36-22. It was a decisive victory, but it wasn't like a blowout. He was crying. Like Lamar Jackson went on the Twitter and like was calling people dumbass.
That's a hell of
What
a
a
part
place
to
to
cut
lag
out,
out.
man.
Right.
That's a hell of a way to lag out. Lamar calling people dumbass. Well, I just can't imagine, man. Like, just think about some of the games that we had the chance to watch, guys. Like, man, think about that. What was it? Carolina? No, it was the Titans. It was the Titans or Carolina. I know we blew a lead in both of those games, man. Where it was the team had a massive lead heading to the second half, and then you looked up at the end of the game like, well, what the hell is that? Like, how do we end up here? Like, it's pretty unfathomable, man. So to see your team up by 27 points, it's like we got this game won, right? Like you people heads have to roll. That's the only way I looked at it. Heads have to roll. People have to get fired. Apparently, they said they're gonna bring back Brandon Staley. I mean, Joe Lombardi's gone, thankfully, but we'll see how that goes. But it kind of this conversation in itself kind of leads me into one of the questions in general I had for you, JP. So a lot has been made of the steps that Jalen Hurts and Daniel Jones were able to take this season in terms of their development. I think, and much of that is due in part to coaching. Hurts having the opportunity to work in the same offense for the first time since high school. Then Daniel Jones having the ability to work with a guy like Brian Dabble who can essentially eliminate what you're not good at from the offense. You see, I always said that he essentially eliminated the intermediate game from Josh Allen in Buffalo, which allowed him to exceed, take shots down the field, take short shots until you were ready to take the intermediate shots. Now here in New York, you see he tries not to take shots down the field at all. They take they take what you gonna give them. Literal definition of that. I think Daniel Jones was like the ranked last in the league in terms of deep shots down the field. So, but I mean, what is it? We recently had a conversation on the pod. I think it was a week or two ago, where the guys said they feel that it takes they feel really highly about having an offensive minded head coach in terms of the development of a quarterback versus a situation like you see what's going on in New York. They hire Robert Saleh, solid defense, but Zach Wilson just doesn't seem to pan out. Do you feel like, well, how do you feel is the best part to go about developing a young quarterback in the early stages if it's a career?
So I think it revolves around three things: protection, play callers, and playmaking. I think you need to have those three things if you're going to bring in a young quarterback and ask him to develop while starting immediately. When you look at the Giants and look at Daniel Jones' career, the protection hasn't been there. The playmakers still aren't there, but the play calling has changed. The play caller has changed. And one thing that Brian Daboll is leaning into with Daniel Jones as the quarterback is just lean into the run game. If your receivers aren't that great, I mean, Isaiah Hodgins is their leading receiver, and they picked him up on waivers in like November. If their receivers aren't that good, lean on Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones' ability to trick defenders into thinking he's not athletic, and just make that work. Their offensive line, while it still has some issues in pass protection, they're pretty good at run blocking. Andrew Thomas has been one of the best left tackles in the league this year. Evan Neal has been up and down, but he's good as a run blocker. And they know what they're doing in the run game. So I think when it comes to the Giants, a good play caller and having an adult in the room that knows what he's doing and knows how to maximize talent is so important. When it comes to the Eagles, I think Nick Sirianni has been a good play caller. I think even when Jalen Hurts first started last year, I think Shane Steichen has been very good. I think Nick Sirianni, like I said, been a great play caller. What he did last year in terms of adjusting this offense for Jalen Hurts was great. Got him into the playoffs. What they needed was the playmakers. And so you go out and get A.J. Brown. That's the best thing that could have happened to Jalen Hurts, because it gave him someone to be like, okay, if you're going to play one-on-one, I'm just going to throw it to this guy, and he's going to win. And it's helped his development so much to the point where it's not only taking shots to A.J. Brown, it's Devontae Smith, it's Dallas Goedert over the middle. He normally did not take those passes over the middle. In 2020, he was an exclusive right hand to the right side, short area of the field. That was the only place where he would throw it. He would only throw it outside the numbers. It was like a college offense. But now it's more evenly distributed. It's over the middle some more. It's been really fun just watching his development in the grand scheme of knowing if you get a young quarterback and have a good environment around him, this is what can happen.
So we're kind of talking about this, and I'm not sure if you alluded to it or not, or if I'm just kind of reading into it. But after Vaughn and Micah had their little podcast, and Micah went on and said, is it Jalen Hurts or is it the system? I think for a lot of Eagles fans, it's been proven to be Jalen Hurts now because of, Cowboys game was fine, but the Saints game was a mess. And I think a lot of people realize, okay, like a lot of what we do only works because of Jalen. But in your opinion, like, what has mattered more? Is it just like the perfect combination of everything, or, is having a quarterback like Jalen what makes this system?
So I'll say this: having the best offensive line in football definitely helps. Having the talent that they have at the skill positions definitely helps. But this offense is centered around Jalen Hurts' strengths. And we saw that, of course, when Gardner Minshew came into the game. Like, I think people took that Cowboys game very, out of perspective, because that was the first game Gardner played, at all. So the Cowboys really know how to game plan. But then you go see them play against the Saints, and the biggest thing that Jalen Hurts adds to the Eagles is his value as a runner. This team is maximized when Jalen Hurts is 100%, because now you have to bring a guy up into the box to account for the extra man in the run game. So now you have an extra guy in the box. That means you're leaving your corners one-on-one with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Okay, so maybe you don't want to do that. You want to stay in the too-high system, avoid the explosive passes. They'll just beat you over the head in the run game, and Jalen Hurts will run for 100 yards. I think by EPA, he is the most valuable rusher in the red zone this year, and that's over guys like Josh Jacobs and Derrick Henry, because he is so valuable in those areas. He can generate first downs off those runs. And combine that with his development as a passer, he is a very legitimate candidate for MVP. I know there was a lot of, oh, is it the system or is it Jalen? The system is great, but it's maximized by what Jalen can do. If that makes sense. Like, it's kind of like he's a force multiplier. Like, sure, the offense works great at like one time speed, but when Jalen is in and when Jalen is 100%, that gets boosted to at least 5 times the speed. It works so much better when he's 100% and when he's playing to his potential.
Yeah, I think we all really agree. I mean, that's what we've been saying. And I think what you said, like succinctly put, is really just like they have to account for Jalen by putting an extra man in the box. And that's helping your matchups on the outside. And that's not something that any other quarterback can bring. You can run the same system, run the same routes, have the same option plays, but if they don't respect him as a runner, then I mean you're kind of hosed there, you know. And another thing that I just kind of wanted to mention is also just Jalen's understanding of the game is so important as well. I mean, or 2 weeks, 3 weeks now, like, you know, I guess I'm not sure, whatever. But the Giants game, right? The Saints game. I'm sorry, the Saints game. Gardner throws a pick six, right, and it ends the game, and it's so deflating. And everyone got on AJ because AJ was like, "Oh, I tried to call out the route." Now AJ could have run a little bit better of a route, you know, even though Marshawn called out that it was a slant. Like, just run through your route, you know. You don't need to like kind of take it. But Gardner didn't realize, you know, these are the things that Jalen Hurts in his second year in the system. It's Gardner Minshew's second year in the system as well, but Jalen Hurts has taken that next progression in his head as well, and that next step in the progression in which, you know, he sees things. The touchdown last time, the first time the Giants and the Eagles played, it was 4th and 1. Was it 4th and 1 or 3rd and 1 where he checks at the line and tells Devontae to run a slot fade? I mean, that's
4th and 1. That was the 4th.
It was 4th and 1, right? And it's just like, these are not things that every quarterback can do. These are things that Jalen Hurts is bringing to the team, and he calls that, and all of a sudden we have an amazing touchdown. So I think I agree with everything you said, and I think the debate should finally be put to rest. But, you know, knowing the media and the national media, I doubt it will. Right? It's too fun.
He is a very real MVP candidate. I think that should be taken 100% seriously.
Yeah. And so the Eagles, you know, like we've talked about, they do have a game this week against the Giants, division round of the playoffs, right? They're at home. So just continuing the trend on the topic of Jalen, how do you think Jalen can take what he experienced in the playoffs last year against Tampa Bay and sort of apply that to this year?
So I think the one thing that has carried over for Jalen Hurts from last year into this year is how he's managed the blitz. I think when he's not blitzed this year, he's 6th in total EPA. When he's blitzed, he drops to 23rd. That was something Tampa did in the playoff game where they just blitzed him. They forced him into making throws that he wasn't comfortable with, and he couldn't do it. So this year, teams have started to blitz him a little bit more. When you think about the games where Jalen Hurts has struggled, it has been against teams that have blitzed him a lot more often. It's been teams that have been able to get pressure on Jalen Hurts. So it comes down to what he can do at the line of scrimmage. Is he going to make the checks to kind of get into a different play, get into a different protection? Or if it comes down to it and he's got the first hot guy, so they have like 6 guys in the line of scrimmage, he's hot off the first guy on the edge. If he blitzes, does he see that guy who's coming in and he throws the hot route? Is it going to be something like that, or can he just beat them with his legs? I think it's something he's still continuing to learn, and that's something that Wink Martindale is going to do. The Giants have the highest blitz rate in the NFL. They didn't blitz a lot against the Vikings, but you know Wink Martindale cannot go more than 2 games without emotionally blitzing. That is what he does. So he's going to blitz. He's going to blitz often. Can Jalen Hurts make them pay when he blitzes? That's what the best quarterbacks in the league can do. When a defensive coordinator blitzes a team a lot, that is basically saying we don't respect your quarterback. We're going to make him make throws that we don't think he can make. That's why you don't see guys like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen blitzed a lot.
Man, that was pretty exciting. It's like he was in the group message with us or something.
Yeah, I'm literally reading your question as he's talking.
Exactly. I don't know.
Hey, bro, can you go back like 30 seconds? We got cut out again.
Yeah, so I was talking about Wink Martindale emotionally blitzing.
Mhm.
That is a very real thing. He is first in the NFL in blitz rate. He is going to blitz, and that's something that's always going to happen. He didn't do it against the Vikings because Justin Jefferson is absurd. And when you blitz the Vikings, Justin Jefferson was absurd. But for the Eagles to win, they're going to have to be able to adjust to those blitzes, adjust to those things that Wink Martindale is going to throw at them because he's going to blitz. I think this season, the teams that have pressured Jalen Hurts the most, the Giants have both of the top like 10. So him being able to adjust to the blitz, adjust to pressure is going to ultimately decide this game for the Eagles offense.
So quick question for you right here. Sorry, Quid. Do you want to go first or should I?
No, go for it.
All right. So, I agree. Like, you're totally right about, Wink being at the top of every metric in terms of blitzing. But last week was an anomaly, right? I mean, they ran zone on like 46% of their coverage snaps, and I mean that's not Wink, right? Like, I mean he is a man blitz type of guy. So who do you think we're going to see, right? Like, I mean, he has blitzed Jalen in the past, but are we seeing like a legitimate shift in how Wink Martindale approaches the game, or was that more like something for the last game and we're gonna see more of traditional Wink this game?
Good.
That lag crazy.
Yeah, I think it lagged out
Worst
again.
time. Facts.
Yeah, Rico, he's definitely on the take. My boy knows ball, man. That's why we got him on.
Okay, sorry, internet's kind of going out. Like I said, mom is doing some work for her job, so I think I don't think this is going to be a philosophical shift from Wink Martindale. I really don't. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, and Martindale this season has shown that he is not going to learn the new tricks. I think the reason for that game plan being so zone heavy, so not blitzing as often.
It's because the Giants don't have any people to play cornerback for sure. Julian
Adoree
Love.
didn't play bad last game. Adoree played pretty well.
Yeah, yeah, but it's easy to play well when you're dropping 8 guys in the coverage
Oh yeah.
every
Oh yeah.
snap.
Bro, yeah. They were
You got
dropping 8
help.
into coverage. That is wild. Sorry, JP, we got you back now.
Yeah, so Wink Martindale is not going to change what he does. I think that was gameplay was specific because the Vikings honestly are Justin Jefferson and the other receivers. If you play zone coverage, keep guys over Justin Jefferson, force other guys to win, that's what you can do. But when you blitz, you're leaving your corners one-on-one with Justin Jefferson. That's not a very smart idea. I think with the Eagles and with Jalen Hurts, like I said, the game plan right now for opposing defense is to blitz them. They haven't been very good with managing pressure when it comes to the offense this season. So I think Wink's going to go right back to traditional Wink. This is going to be a Ravens, like Wink Martindale Ravens kind of game. He's going to blitz them a lot.
It's really funny that you say that, man. And I don't know if you saw us all chuckling while you was talking while you went on your soapbox initially. It's because I literally said in the group chat probably a few days ago. I really was. I mean, of course, we all follow you on Twitter. We all follow you and see all the good knowledge that you give out to the world. But the one thing that I noticed about you and with your rants on Twitter is how big you are on emotionally blitzing. I see you. I see you speak on that a whole lot, and it chuckled all of us because literally the question that I had set aside for you was just talking about much like you laid out again. They didn't blitz the Vikings clearly because I think they don't have the dogs to do that against the Vikings. They at a cornerback, you just don't have the you could try, but good luck, Chuck. And in this instance, you how you say you think they will blitz the Eagles? You think it's going to go be a throwback to a bit of his Ravens days? It's really interesting because I know last time, well, not last time, in week 14 at least, when they blitz Hurts. Ultimately, Hurts had hurt them for 7 rushing attempts, 77 yards, and just killed them. It's what it felt like. And then when I think another game where I think about with the blitz being really heavy, like when you said that all the games that the Eagles got blitzed in, at least the highest ones, the next game that came to my head was the Bears game, and made me think about that check that he made in the red zone where the Bears sent the pressure, and he was like, okay, I'll just quarterback draw right in front of you, where it seems like blitzing him. Wow, last year it was definitely efficient for the Buccaneers, and early on in the year it may have paid off a little. It seemingly hasn't been very efficient for many folks as of late. So I just wanted to know what got you to this point of thinking that Wink might get back to his emotional blitzing.
Mainly because I think Wink is not going to change. That is something Wink is always going to do. I think it because it worked for them kind a little bit last game where you took away kind of those explosive passes when they blitzed. I think he's going to be more willing to let Jalen Hurts scramble if they blitz rather than hit them over the head with a 30-yard AJ Brown touchdown. So it's going to be interesting to see him kind of if they do decide to blitz heavy, if it's going to be a Dory Jackson being isolated in man coverage against AJ Brown, who's going to be guarding Devontae Smith, because again, that is one of the problems when you play the Eagles. It's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you decide to blitz and they hit you and they beat you and you don't get home, somebody's going to get open. And it's going to be more often than not that somebody's going to get open. I think about when they played the Bears and the Bears blitzed. AJ Brown caught like a 55-yard pass, and it's just like, hey, if you don't get home, that's what's gonna happen. But I think his efficiency and him getting better against the blitz and finding more answers really is the biggest thing. Is a good example of self-scouting and development. It's knowing what you are, knowing what you aren't, and knowing what teams are going to show you. So as you see it more, you're like, oh, okay, teams are going to like to bring, for example, pressure off of the left side, force him to his right or something. If you now see that multiple times, you're like, okay, I've seen this look before. I know what's about to happen. I know where the check is because I've seen it before. So it's just a great example of self-scouting and development by the Eagles, which they've done a fantastic job of all season.
Certainly, man. Certainly. So you kind of said something along the lines that was pretty, I guess I can call it interesting. But when you were speaking earlier, when you were speaking in terms of exactly how to mold a young quarterback, we wondered exactly how much of that do you see going on in Jacksonville with Doug Peterson? And I mean, just us as Eagles fans having a chance to watch Doug for multitude of years, Doug giving us our first Super Bowl. Can you see? I know us, if we can give some parallels, I know we probably say both head coaches are really big players. Coaches love to do what the players have in mind. Can you give us some insight, I guess, for lack of a better term, of what you see of Doug and his working with Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, so I can give the biggest example just of the year one and year two difference. Year one, they're playing the Titans. Rookie season, Urban Meyer still coaching. I think it was like a 3rd and 9 or something. And the Jaguars have a route concept where both receivers run into each other. Like they take both guys out of the play. And Trevor Lawrence's only read is to that side. There's nothing built in on the other side for him to go to. So he sees both these guys run into each other and fall down. Rashawn Evans is pointing at him, laughing during the play. And it's just kind of sitting there like, there's no answer built in. There's nothing here.
That hurt.
Players running into each other is never fun.
It's never fun. I told y'all a few weeks back about how I felt about Namdi. Not Namdi. It was, I believe it was Namdi. It was Namdi and Kurt Coleman that ran into each other as Victor Cruz scored that touchdown, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, but the biggest difference has been just giving Trevor Lawrence answers. So if one side is covered fully. It's okay, we have a man beater over here or a man coverage beater on this side. If there's zone coverage, we have a zone coverage beater on the other side. It's just giving him options. That's something a good play caller does. It's like I said, play calling, playmakers, and protection. First year, Trevor Lawrence did not have any of that. Like I said, receivers were running into each other. There was no protection very well. So in the offseason, you go get Doug Peterson, who knows how to run an NFL offense. You go and get Christian Kirk, who might not be the best receiver in the league, but he knows how to get open. He knows how to create separation. You saw it in the Chargers game. When they needed some big catches on that last drive, they went to Christian Kirk. You go and get Zay Jones, caught the touchdown pass. You go and get that type of guy. You go get Brandon Scherf, who has been an all-pro caliber right guard this season. That helps your protection. And then you start to see what everybody saw last season, even though the Jaguars were very bad. You saw Trevor Lawrence could be a good quarterback in this league. And so you're starting to see that now with better results because the stuff around him is better. So it really is. I cannot stress enough how important it is to have quarterbacks in a good environment, having them around good people. Like it's the biggest thing to their development because then you actually start to see them grow.
Yeah, and then just to put a bow on this entire thing. So with this game coming up on Saturday night, what's your read on it? What's your view?
So I think for the Eagles to win, I think it's going to come down to the defense. I think Jonathan Gannon and former Vikings defensive coordinator Ed Donatell, they run the same kind of defensive scheme. I think it's very much too high base. They're both from that Vic Fangio world, but the Eagles are more likely to blitz and more likely to play man than the Vikings because the Vikings just don't have the corners to. So I am wondering if Jonathan Gannon will play a little bit more man and force Daniel Jones' processing time to be a little higher. Because that's why you go get James Bradbury. That's why you go pay Darius Slay. It's why you have those guys. So you can play man and completely take away Isaiah Hodgins and Richie James and force Daniel Jones to go through progressions and make better reads. I also think what's going to be huge is, and I know it's been a topic among Eagles Twitter for a long time this season, and it is the fronts that they play, whether it be a 4-man front, 5-man front, stopping the run out of those fronts. You could tell if they're in a 4-man front, you should probably run it. If they're in a 5-man front, you should probably throw it. So I do wonder if they vary the fronts kind of like the Vikings did, because you can still get pressure on this team. And then the big thing defensively is Daniel Jones is not a design runner. I think he had 78 yards rushing against the Vikings. 59 of those were scrambles. He's not a designer QB run guy. It's not like Justin Fields like running QB power 25 times a game. He's going to see a lane, and Brian Daboll will be like, hey, if you see this lane, go. And he'll be like, okay, if I see this lane and nobody's open, I'm just going to run. So I think for the Eagles defense, it's getting pass rush, but not losing your rush lanes. It's maintaining that integrity, because if you don't have the proper rush lanes, Daniel Jones is going to take off. I mean, I'm tired of I'm tired of defenses like thinking Daniel Jones can't run, so they just crash on the zone read and then just act stunned. Like, this guy's done this before. We have years of film on this.
Oh,
there's years of film. Like the Vikings, there was a play where the Vikings just completely crashed on a zone read and Daniel Jones kept it and ran for 15 yards. And the defensive end just turns around stunned. I'm like, my guy, we've seen this before. You cannot do this. But I think the Eagles will have a better game plan, mainly because they have the guys in the secondary, so they don't have to play zone all the time.
Well,
okay,
they don't have
one
to.
Question. We got one question for you before you get out of here. It doesn't even have to be long, in depth if you don't want it to. It could even be yes or no. I like either or. Does Jonathan Gannon suck?
No.
Thank you. Thank you.
He does not suck. I think he has done a fine job as defensive coordinator this year. Losing Jordan Davis is a big, that's a massive hole to fill. You can go and sign a Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph. That's not Jordan Davis.
They were playing better than Jordan, though.
No, they were playing.
Dude, the run defense significantly improved when Linval and Ndamukong got there. Jordan Davis, are we going to act like he was playing every snap? Dude, we were talking about he wasn't getting enough snaps. And even when he was out there, we were like, all right, he's doing a good job of stopping the run, but that's about all he's doing. And this is where it comes into the 4-man and 5-man fronts. Well, we can't stop the run in 4-man fronts. It's not a good thing. And it's the same thing all year.
The biggest thing with Jordan Davis, and I understand the not playing a lot of snaps. I get it. But when you have a guy that can turn your opposing offense's 1st and 10s into 2nd and 12s and 2nd and 14s and get them in negative situations, he does not have to play very much. I don't want you rushing the passer.
I agree. No, if he can do that, yeah. But the thing is he was out there, but people were questioning how good he was. We can talk about it, but people were talking about his lack of production on the field. I think he's going to be fine. I think he was probably playing through injury for a while. I think he's a young player, but I don't think like losing Jordan Davis is why Jonathan Gannon has these flaws or whatever. I think Jonathan Gannon has flaws because he just stays rigid. He stays rigid in these things. You said he can choose to go man because he has the corners. He doesn't like playing man. He's allergic to it. He will refuse to do it even when it would work out better. And I get that there's different situational things and scheming things like this. But my one issue with Gannon has been that the defense is stagnant. And I get that, there's late rotations, these types of things, but you can't always run zone. You have to switch things up. And that's where it bugs me. In the games where we go and play man, we're like, oh my God, we got James Bradbury and Darius Slay. Like, this is so good. And I get you can't do it every game, but man, like, just sprinkle it in there a little bit. That's all I'm asking for. Like, I don't think it's too much to ask for some blitzes and some man. We got the horses, Quell. Like, if you got the horses, you should
what
be
a lot
doing
of people don't take into account is when you play man, there are more than 2 people on the field. It ain't just.
I understand that. Quell, we had Avonte Maddox. We had Avonte Maddox.
Man coverage on anybody.
Avonte Maddox can play man coverage. And now you got CJ who can play man coverage in the slot. So you got 3 corners who are top flight who can play. You got a guy who can play in the slot. You got 2 guys outside. If we don't see more man, that's messed up. Like, we got the guys. And I get it. You can put your safeties in tough positions. But if you got the horses, change up the defense a little bit. Show some stagnate. Like, you don't want to be stagnant. Like, that's what the feeling I've gotten too often. Make the quarterback uncomfortable. We were able to keep rushing lanes, like JP said. We had like 6 sacks on Jones the first time we played. We're able to do that, yeah. But man, if we are afraid of playing man on Isaiah Hodgins and Incog, and is it Richie Incog? No, that was the lineman. Yeah, that was the lineman. What's his name? Richie James. Richie James. Yeah. When you're Richie, bro, it's in my head. That means in my head.
Richie Incognito running routes.
He was the bully.
Richie Incognito running routes would pop me for sure. I'd be stunned. But I definitely think there is some validity to Jonathan Gannon being kind of stagnant. It's kind of what the Fangio system kind of does. Even last year, before he got all the guys that he had, he was very much a play zone, 1st and 2nd down, 3rd down, play cover 1, play man. That's what defensive coordinators want to do. They want to be able to play cover 1 on 3rd down because basically our guys are better than your guys. Mm-hmm. I think he's been fine. Like, overall, I think there have been some games where his steadfastness in playing quarters kind of hurt him. But this game, you really should sprinkle in a little bit more man coverage. Or, I mean, if you're that scared of Daniel Jones running, I really don't think Daniel Jones' designed run game should scare them. I think it's the Daniel Jones scrambles. And that really didn't hurt them when they played the Eagles the first couple of times. The pass rush is phenomenal. So I feel like they can play a little bit more man and try and speed up Daniel Jones' processing. Like, if he just goes one and done and run, like, you got guys. You can get them. You can get the sacks. But it'll be interesting to see how he toggles that man zone. It should be interesting to see on Saturday.
So, just before you get out of here, give us a game pick, man.
Oh, game pick. I am going with the Eagles. I'm going to say 31-17 is the score. I just think they're going to be able to pull away in the second half. I think the Giants are going to make it a game for the first couple of quarters. It's going to be a little bit scary, but I think they just have too much talent. And when the Eagles really, really want to run the ball and just kill games, they absolutely can. So in the second half, like, if they build a lead and then just sit on the Giants for the entire game, I wouldn't be surprised. That matchup between the Giants defensive line and the Eagles offensive line is going to be huge. Lane Johnson's health is going to be critical to this, but watching Dexter Lawrence go up against the interior of the Eagles offensive line is going to be really fun.
Absolutely.
Sure, man.
Anything else
Yeah,
from you
man.
guys? Sorry, go ahead, Kapir. Wrap it up.
Yeah, man. I just want to say thank you for joining us. And you can plug your Twitter or your Instagram or anything that you wanted to plug.
Yeah, just at Acosta32_JP. Like Quell said, I talk a lot about emotionally blitzing, and just don't emotionally blitz. That's really my biggest thing. Don't emotionally blitz. To all you folks out there watching, don't emotionally blitz.
We might like that.
I'm an
Thank you so much for joining us, man.
Thank you so much, man.